Hello and welcome along to the Let's Talk Racing YouTube channel in association with Racing TV. Welcome back to the channel. Good to see you. Slightly late this week.
A little bit late, yeah. No, obviously a few things getting in the way. Very busy work schedule at the moment, leading up to Cheltenham. The next 4 or 5 weeks are tremendous, but they are busy in work.
They are. This video is going to be what we promised last week. Thank you very much for the support. But this is going to be a few horses that we're thinking about for Cheltenham handicaps. Purely thinking. We've not got the entries yet. We've not got the marks. We're going to do a proper rundown when we do get both of those. But these are a few horses that are of interest pointing towards the Cheltenham Festival handicaps because people are getting excited.
They are indeed. How much do you love festival handicaps?
Oh, I love festival handicaps. I actually think that...
Do you sleep at night thinking, like, are you there waking up at 8 a.m. on a work morning and going, oh, the grand annual?
So today's the first day that I've actually felt all okay. I was ill. I wasn't just severely hungover in that last video.
Ill.
Bit of both. And I actually don't think I was ill. I think I was just tossing and turning and sweating at night, thinking about who's going to win the Martin Pipe.
Well, you kept telling me you were having terrible night sleeps, and I think it was what's going to win the Pertemps now. Like, you're genuinely, you've no answers.
And I do want to touch on that. Obviously, Andy Post bet down because Absolute Notions had a fatal injury at Musselburgh, absolutely gutted. I think that he was a real standout in that, but unfortunately, no horse should go to the track and never come back. Very sad, and unfortunately, it was a bit of a dampener that weekend.
It was. Look, these things happen, unfortunately. It's a terrible time and terrible thing that happens in the sport. Obviously, sorry to yourself for your bet, but more sorry to Rob Core and Connections. Yeah. I know we had a beer with Rob on the Saturday night, and he was talking about how excited he was.
I owe him so many apologies.
Yeah, you were. I think I've never seen the like. Obviously, Slade Steele's running on the Sunday, so we didn't know how he was going to run yet, and I don't think you communicated with Rob. It was more just pointing at him from across the room, just going Slade Steele, Ballymore, Slade Steele, Ballymore. Like, poor old Rob. Like, he's trying to talk to me about Irish Point, and you just kept shouting Ballymore.
And he's genuinely just a really nice guy.
Yeah, he's a lovely man, but like little did he know, he's getting absolute pelters about Slade Steele.
Like, the horse hadn't even ran.
No.
And he was only saying good things to me and what I wanted to hear, and yet I was making sure. I really am sorry if you're watching this. But let's get cracking. If you do enjoy this video, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and do get your thoughts, and also suggest handicappers that you're excited to see at the Cheltenham Festival. Right, now the first horse is a horse that might be familiar to Let's Talk Racing viewers, and that is King of Kingsfield. Now, before the Dublin Racing Festival, I think the vibes were he was going to run well, probably going to struggle to beat a horse like Ballyburn, and all roads could lead to a race that Gigginstown love and Gordon loves, and that is the Martin Pipe. He ran a race that would fill you with confidence for a race like that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, he ran a very good race. He stayed on very well to the line. He was given a tender enough time of things. Obviously, the 2 good horses out in front of him, one that could well win a Supreme, one that could well win or go very close in a Ballymore in front of him. So the form is there to see. I think 2.5 miles. I wasn't sure about it going into the Dublin Racing Festival. I thought he shaped like more of a stair that day than he's ever done before. He's hit the line well the last twice as well, especially under more considerate riding, which I think suits. My only caveat with him and the Martin Pipe is, are we going to be lucky enough that this horse sneaks in under 145?
And that's the interesting thing, isn't it? I'm not sure what mark he's going to get.
My worry is that he was second in a Grade 1, third in a Grade 1, and he's beaten Mirazur West. I don't feel the English handicapper, unless he's looking on a few Martin Pipe slips himself, how does he rate that under 145?
I don't think he's going to be a million miles off it.
No.
I think like a 147 would be harsh.
It would.
I think it'd be 143 to 146.
Yeah, well, if it's going to be that, surely the handicapper just throws us a bone, and runs him off 145. Look, I think, I do agree. I think he'll be in that bracket. I might make it 143 to 147, 148. I actually wouldn't think he'd be out of place in a county hurdle if that was to come to pass. But you would prefer him in the Martin Pipe. It's usually that little bit weaker.
I agree. I think he'll be ridden probably a bit like Colin Fire when he ran that year. I think it's probably slightly off the pace, and he will be given that kind of patient tactics because that's what he's been good at this season.
This isn't even me bringing up Colin Fire. You're now just bringing up bad memories to yourself.
I do think King of Kingsfield is a good horse, and clearly they thought the world of him. Gordon said on record this year that he was one of their main hopes last year. Everyone kind of knew that. They didn't make that quiet. And he probably is slightly improving and slightly getting closer to fulfilling his potential.
Yeah, well, I think they've just adapted. I think there's no doubt he disappointed them. He disappointed them not being able to win a maiden hurdle his first 2 starts. But that being said, they've adapted. They've probably gone... Well, they've certainly changed tactics in how they ride the horse. And they've maybe gone, well, we're not going to win a Grade 1, we're not going to win a Supreme, we're not going to win a Ballymore. What can we win? And this type of race would seem like the obvious option.
I think he's very interesting. I think he will be targeted at the race if he can get in. Another horse in the same silks who could go down that direction is Cade of Bulan, this time trained by Willie Mullins. Now, he did go mark fishing this time. I think it was at Ascot or Warwick. Anyway, he got a British mark of 140. I think he's very interesting. We've seen him twice for Willie. We've seen him once over 2 miles 3 in a Nace maiden hurdle, won last year by Imperi Pass. So clearly Willie likes to send a good one there. And then he went down in trip and beat Westport Cove. Just kind of scraped home that day over 2 miles, but they drew a long way clear of the third. He's got a mark of 140, a British mark. It might be changed slightly, but he's not going to be over 145. So if they want to run in the Martin Pipe, that will be possible. He could be very interesting. I'm not saying that he's necessarily a Galopin de Champ running in a Martin Pipe or a State Man running in a county, but he, out of maybe 3 or 4 who could be that mould, he's probably one of them.
Yeah, I'd say so. He's got certainly up sell to his mark. I suspect he will be nudged up another pound or 2. Might go into a Martin Pipe of 142. This seems like just the race he'll run in.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, he looked a little bit uncomfortable over 2 miles. I don't think he's got massive amounts of pace.
They were very keen to make use of him as well. They sent him on early.
Yeah, and I think in his maiden hurdle even he was flat out, but he did stay well to the line. So I think this is the absolute ideal race for him to run in. Haven't quite made up my mind whether he is that kind of Grade 1 novice chaser to be, or whether he's maybe not all that. I suspect the long, the short of it is it might be somewhere in between where he's got leverage off this mark. He might, as you say, he mightn't be your next Galopin de Champ, he mightn't be your next Don Pally, but he could well go very close in a race like this because he could have 7 or 8 pounds up his sleeve.
I agree, he is interesting. Another Willie Mullins novice, is Sam
No, he's not actually. He won a race in France. And then he went to Punchestown as a novice at the back end of last year. Got well beaten, but he was a different horse at Limerick.
He was a different horse. He's owned by JP McManus. He's called Sa Majest. The mark could be his issue. People are talking about Martin Pipes with him. Surely there's no way he gets enough 145 because he's beaten Noble Yates by 4 lengths off levels, and he was rated 154 at the time.
Yeah, I don't see how on earth this horse can go in a Martin Pipe. I don't see how.
But if they do,
he could be the Rick of the whole meeting. He could be your state man
if he
gets in off that type of a mark. I would say he will be in and amongst the high 140s. I don't think he'll get a mark that's very literal for that Noble Yates defeat, because I think the handicapper will have a little bit of sympathy for it, but I see him being a 148, 149 rating perhaps.
Coral Cup?
It would mean Coral Cup. Now, I don't know. He's the type of horse, like, he could be a complete lurker. He's not the type of horse I would traditionally like for a race like the Coral Cup.
I think the Coral Cup and the Martin Pipe, although there's only a furlong difference and they are run on different tracks, they are very different races.
Yeah, I think there's just a few races at the festival, when you now look at the last 5 or 6 renewals, they just tend to actually go, I wouldn't say to exposed horses, but more streetwise horses, and the Coral Cup has a desperate record for novices. I know he's not a novice, but the amount of runs he's only had 2 runs for Willie Mullins, and I don't think that will change between now and then. I'm almost 100% certain it won't. He's a very inexperienced horse.
Do you know that year where JP went through all of it? I think he had Saint Roir in the county, unexperienced, Dame de Company won the Coral Cup, unexperienced, and Aramax won the Boodles. Could he be that kind of mould where he is just simply far too good?
Yeah, but at the same time, he's going to have to be a Grade 1 horse off his likely mark. Like, you forget Damned Company, I think, was off 139.
Yeah,
like, we're thinking of 10, 12 pounds in the difference, and she wasn't far off being a Grade 1 mare, and she was a complete rick when you look at it in hindsight. If he's going to win a Coral Cup off high 140s, low 150s, he's going to be, he'd have to go incredibly close in a Turner's Novice Chase next year if they went down that
Or
path.
a Stayers Hurdle this year.
Potentially. But this is it. And we don't know. We don't have the evidence to suggest yes or no. I know he's a big hype horse. He's a well-regarded horse by all accounts. And I'm not saying he can't win a race like this, but it would take a leap of faith, and he will end up being a skimpy price.
Next handicapper that I wanted to chuck in there, and it's a horse who I was very fond of on the day, and he won at Cheltenham, and that was Are You Wise to That? Now, he's given a mark of 130, one off 125. I actually think at Cheltenham, he wasn't at his best. I really don't.
Okay.
He didn't jump particularly fluently, and it took a long time to get going, and it was his first time step up in trips, so they didn't have the confidence that he would stay. I think he's a much better horse than, or even he did then. So immediately after the race, I thought if he can get, say, 133, 134, go up £8-9, that'd be brilliant. He only won up 5. 130 is going to be, he's going to be struggling to get in, say, an Ultima. Possibly could get into a Kim Muir, something like that. I think he's very interesting. I think he's a much better horse than 130. I actually think he could be a mid 140 source. I think that's how good he could be. Full brother to Denman or half brother to Denman, something like that. Staying is his forte, and it's going to be his forte, and we've only seen him over at extreme distance once, and he was very good. I'm just not sure if he's actually going to get in a race like that, but he's a horse to follow, I think, just for whatever and wherever he runs next.
No, I agree with that, and also you do have the chance, obviously, that he could run a Kim Muir and John Joe's other young lad,
AJ,
Anthony O'Neill, and he'd get the ride. Obviously, John Joe has more of an affiliation with an Ultima, but he's definitely not going to get into that unless he runs between then and now, which again, you're getting tight in that circumstance. So you'd think I agree with you, I think he's got potentially a stone in the bag somewhere. Whether that will be at Cheltenham or not, I'm not sure.
He could even be one for the Coral Gold Cup if he ran in it off a low weight next year.
Yeah.
At Newbury.
He's the type of horse, it just wouldn't surprise me if he went very close in that 3-mile handicap chase at Aintree on National Day.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Just this year.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the plans are with
I think
him.
there's definitely room with this mark of 130.
Oh, very much so. I think you're onto something there.
Now, another one trained by John Joe O'Neill, actually. Now, look, after...
at the start of the season, we had this decorum, and then we had to talk because some people were commenting, saying we were being harsh on John Joe. You said you just don't like backing these horses. This whole list is John Joe
I don't
horses.
particularly like backing his horses in graded races, but he is and has a knack of getting them well handicapped.
Yeah,
now, I'm not sure
do.
Springwell Bay has a load in hand of 145. I think he is interesting. Now, I have looked at the Potemps, since Absolute Notions isn't going to run there. And there isn't... Every year you kind of look at it and you see like 3 or 4 and you're excited by them for next year, maybe novice chasing, or even just a possible horse ahead of the handicapper. There aren't really any. IKRLN's favourite 8-1, qualified very early, haven't really seen him. I'm not 100% sure about him. Whether Springwell Bay is a horse we've seen win at Cheltenham, then got beat up in trip at Cheltenham over 3 miles. I think they probably learnt a lot that day. Ground not his favourite. Then he's gone and qualified for a Potemps, finishing a close second in a qualifier. He's off 145, he's gone up £2 for that. I know the actual exact connections. John Joe and Mrs. Gay Smith won the Potemps with Holywell, then won the Ultimate the following year. I think he could be a horse like that. And I do think that he is possibly one of the younger, exciting horses who could have improvements still to come in that Potemps, because it looks awful.
Well, this is it. Like, I don't look at Springwell Bay and think he's got a bag load in the locker, but there's an argument to suggest he doesn't need a bag load in the locker. Like,
there is another qualifier at Punchestown they've added in.
There is, but I'm even thinking about it from Gordon's horses and or those types of trainers. Like,
will he run better days ahead? Novices like that?
Yeah, but like,
maybe a couple that were thinking of a Bartlett. That
maybe, but it's not an inspiring list personally. Like, Absolute Notions was that type of horse that had maybe a little bit of class and maybe could have been that Grade 1 horse. Like, you've got horses in there. Like, Way Cool, I think, is second favourite for Ted Walsh. Really likeable mare. I'm sure she could run well and stuff like that. But, like, I don't think she's got anything in the locker. Like,
No.
I think she's just an improving, solid 3-mile handicap hurdler. And I'm sure will be, you know, if they go over fences, I know she's quite a small mare, but if they go over fences, she'll be a good, solid handicap chaser.
I'm just thinking good to soft ground with the sun on his back at Cheltenham, Springwell Bay.
You are a romantic at heart. I'm convinced of it.
I don't know. It looks an awful race.
It's not a great race. Although the one, like, I look at a couple of these races, and it's very easy to say at this time of the season because we don't have the entries, don't have the weights just yet. Like, I look at the Pertemps, I'm confused. I look at the plate, I'm confused. And the one that always does me, have you ever had, now I'm going to bring up Intukas again, which I shouldn't have done, but bar him, like, what's your record like in the Grand Annual? Because genuinely, I don't think I've ever backed a horse in the Grand Annual that's finished better than 6.
I've had 2 seconds, and I've had 2 seconds, and that was Bundoran getting beat by Croco Bay. I've had Intukas, who was my nap of the festival. He got beat by Sky Pirate, who I said couldn't possibly win the race after he ran at Warwick on his previous start. I had Buddy Rich, who never ran in the race.
Stood on a stone.
Was favourite in the morning and stood on a stone. And...
sorry, mate, I'm bringing up bad memories.
It's a tough race. It's a very tough race.
But at least you've had horses that have gone close. I genuinely have never had a horse to go close in the race.
No, it's very tough.
No.
Chosen Mate? No, I didn't back him.
No, I didn't. I backed him the year after when he ran Sting. I backed Andy Dufresne in it last year. I'm constantly...
Did Le Prezien win it?
He did one year. But he won it the year that he wasn't fancied.
Yeah.
He was 5 one year and got beat.
Yeah.
And then came back the following year.
The most brutal one I've ever had was Intukas.
Oh, yeah. Because he should have won. He should have won. And the fact it was Sky Pirate. Anyway.
Are you telling me you got something for the race this year?
Well, this is it. Like, I'm constantly drawn in, and I know this is a horse that plenty of people have on their radar. I'm drawn into the nicer type of horse in this race. I was with Andy Dufresne last year, and that was went down the tubes pretty quickly. I'm fascinated by Sam Waugh. I don't believe he's an incredibly well handicapped horse or anything like that. I think there is a world where a Grand Annual could suit him down to the ground. He wasn't off a yard in the Dan Moore a couple of starts going 4th behind Uncle Phil. Then he was in the Grade 1 behind El Fabiolo, ran stink. I don't know. He's going to be the one that I'm going to end up zoning in on, I suspect, for that race. And I just know I'm going to do my dough again.
Yeah, it's just one of those really, really tough races.
But then also, we're going through the handicap video, and, you know, I'm a man, I'm a crowd pleaser. And I've got a reputation to uphold. Well, maybe not a crowd pleaser, I'm a crowd killer.
Barry Collin.
No.
John McConnell.
No.
Oliver McKiernan.
I wish.
Am I missing one?
There may be somebody there. Trains in Wexford.
PN?
Yeah.
Paul Nichols.
Yeah, close, but not quite.
Phil Mitchell off EastEnders.
Yeah, good old Phil. No, I've ended up coming down on one Paul
Phil
Nolan
Mitchell,
horse.
PN. Oh,
Yeah,
God,
you
sorry.
absolutely. Where have you Phil Mitchell
Go on.
from EastEnders? We're talking about a Paul Nolan nag, and you're talking about EastEnders.
Go on.
No, I just think there's an interesting one.
What handicap?
Fred Winter,
Okay.
the Boodles handicap hurdle, which, for fun fact, the first running of the Fred Winter was 19 years ago.
And Paul Nolan trained the winner.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. We've heard that one before. Come on.
Yeah. Won by 11 lengths.
All right, is he going to repeat it?
Well, to be fair, look at the last few years. Metamorphosis finished 5th.
Whoa,
Seahorse
whoa,
finished
whoa.
4th. He's not too bad. I think there's a potential interest. I'm not advising anything, but there's a potential interest in a horse called Palamon, who's currently got an Irish rating of 116. Ran not great on his first start at Leopardstown on soft ground. Ran a little bit better when a couple of lengths behind Lark in the morning at Punchestown, who's 4-1-5 for this race. And then at Naas last time was very, very interesting. He was 3rd behind Indawi. Now, the finishing margin very much flatters Palamon in comparison to Indawi. Indawi could have won the race by 10, 12 lengths, I suspect. Indawi has got an incredibly high rating as a result of that, though. And I think he's going to struggle to win a Boodles on the backing of that. And he's 8-1.
He could have won it by a street.
He could.
Jumping 2 out, I was thinking this horse was going to win 50 lengths.
He could. Now, how many, like in Irish maiden hurdles, juvenile or novice races, how many of those are won by a horse that starts last?
Not many.
Not many. Palamon started that race last.
Are you insinuating that Paul Nolan had a longer term plan for this horse and therefore that maiden hurdle wasn't it and he wasn't actually trying?
I'm insinuating that there could be better to come from this horse. He was bought for 90 grand. He was a decent flat horse in the end. I think he ended up finishing on the flat 80 for Richard Hannon. He won a York handicap by half the track. I just think he's the type of horse that if he snuck in at the bottom of the weights, it's a little bit punty, it's a little bit like Metamorpheus last year, who gave us a good run at a big price, that he could be in a situation where he'll travel into the race quite well. He's been given that experience of being covered up in amongst horses. His jumping has gotten better with each run. He's just one to keep on the right side of, whether it's at Cheltenham in a Boodles, whether it's at Fairyhouse at the back end of the season. He will end up being a well-handicapped horse.
Okay, interesting. Palamon, one to keep on side.
Very much so.
I've got another one quickly.
Please.
JP McManus could possibly go for a county hurdle, and that's Risk Bell. Mark of 136, 137.
Very interesting.
Jumped the last in front in last year's Boodles. Ended up finishing ahead behind Jazzy Matty. Finished third. Biker split them. And I think that she could be targeted towards, say, a county hurdle. Finished 5th at the Dublin Racing Festival, never really put in the race. No. Has good form earlier on in the season, beating Nusret in graded company, I believe, grade 3. I think that she could be interesting. I think she's going to go to the county hurdle, so that's interesting. Is there another one in there that excites you for a handicap hurdle?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say excites, but the Coral Cup, as we were saying earlier with Sam Majest, I think it suits actually something that's perhaps a little bit more exposed. In the last couple of years, you've seen that horses with maybe even a little bit of class near the top of the weight.
Langerdan.
Yeah, well, I hope to God he
I hate him. I've never said I hate a horse. I hate him.
Well, I don't...
The handicapper seems to watch him run and goes... And just takes it completely literally.
But there's millions.
Just drop him £4 every run.
There's millions of horses that are like 10 years old and run crap for ages and genuinely go down £3 in the space of 5 years of being pulled up every time.
He gets £4 every time he runs.
Langerdan, the man just goes, yeah, cut it off. And the only thing more nauseating than handicapping is the Langerdan people that like him seem to be full of absolute wrongness.
I think he is one of those horses, though, that if you'd got on him on one of his winning days, you were always going to be his best mate.
No, yeah, but what we fail to remember now, it's rich coming from me, it's glass houses talk from me, but considering I follow heaps of horses off a cliff, but an awful lot of these guys that had their day in the sun in the Coral Cup, they would have backed him 12 times previous and he didn't win a single one of them.
This is very, very rich coming from you.
Yeah, it is rich. It is rich. But I'm just stating the facts.
Yeah, he just frustrates me because it just seems like he runs 4 poor races, gets dropped £10 across those 4 races, turns up in a handicap. Oh, look, I'm well handicapped. I win a massive race. Then do the same thing, rinse and repeat. And the handicapper just doesn't really care. But I actually like the Skeletons. I just don't like him.
No, I've an awful lot of time for the Skeletons. I really quite like an awful lot of their horses. But the thing that I can't understand, I don't want to get this into a big debate about it because it's obviously a handicap video, but there are people getting punished by the BHA for less than what the Skeletons do at Langerdan. And I don't like...
Are you saying that they should be punished?
Well, what are they doing? No, but I'm not... I just don't know how it's one rule for one and one rule for the other. Some small town trainer stops a horse and suddenly the man is wagging his finger. Dan Skelton stops this horse all year until the spring and it's well done, Dan, you got him well handicapped.
The thing is, it's 3 years in a row as well, wins the Imperial Cup, then gets beat by Gallop and Deschamps in the Martin Pipe.
Yeah, 10 lengths clear a third.
Following year, falls at Cheltenham in the Martin Pipe but wins at Aintree.
Yeah.
And then last year, again, nothing all year, and then wins the Coral Cup.
But I just can't comprehend how for other people it's, oh no, you're bringing the game into disrepute. And for him it's, oh, well, he's just a spring horse. Okay. Like, that's the biggest load of absolute crap.
We're going slightly off a tangent. Who's the horse who you like for the Coral Cup?
Well, he was third in the race a couple of years ago on bottomless ground when Commander of Fleet won it, but Ashdale Bob, I feel he could run a big race in the Coral Cup off a big weight. I know he's dropped to 147 in Ireland. There will be a few pounds on top of that. I think he was third in the Coral Cup of 152 with Jack Foley claiming 3. Wouldn't surprise me if Connor Smithers, a very good young jock who's connected with Jesse's stable, might get the ride and claim 7 off him. If that's the case and he's off a mark of 150, say, and you've got that £7 in hand, I just feel there's still more in the tank with that horse. He's still travelling integrated races quite well. Wouldn't be one that I would discount. I think he'd be a bigger price than he needs to be. The Plate, another race I said I couldn't really make head nor tail of. I thought an interesting run from Theatre Man on Trials Day. That novice handicap chase year on year on year produces Cheltenham Festival winners.
I never really felt... He was either very slow to get going or wasn't really put in the race.
Yeah, I think the one thing you could say, and I know our dear friend Jake Price, who loves taking the mick out of my selections, has started calling this horse Tripless Man instead of Theatre Man, and I can kind of get where he's coming from, but I think that's a little bit harsh on him, considering he's bumped into a few he's bumped into Ginny's Destiny.
Don't like him for the turners.
No, I know you don't, but rightly or wrongly, he is second fav for the turn.
Bonkers.
You know, I understand that, and you've got a vendetta against Ginny's Destiny, but it doesn't.
How is he second favourite for that race? Imagine if I said that at the start of the season.
I know. But at the same time, you can't get away from the fact that bumping into him on Trials Day
in a handicap,
in a novice handicap is harsh luck.
Sorry, you mentioned that horse.
Yeah, it's okay, man. It's okay. I thought he ran very well. He's 137. I think the end-to-end nature of the Plate over 2.5 would really be up his street. I think he's one to keep it rightly on side for Richard Banton.
Just to let you know and reinstate that this is just thoughts. These are handicap horses that we're thinking of about a Cheltenham Festival, not bets or anything like that. We're sounding opinion here. Last one
is the one I'm most intrigued by, and actually people will be very glad to know it's not
Paul Nolan,
no,
Oliver McKernan,
no,
John McConnell,
no,
Barry Connell,
no,
Willie Mullins,
no. Like, it's complete nosebleed stuff. Not even Gordo. It's my old pal, who I don't think I've ever backed a winner off him, but Big Henry
de Bromhead.
Yeah. And a horse of his for the Kinmure.
Wow.
Which is a bit rogue.
Talk to me.
Bit rogue. But a horse called Whacker Clan. I think this horse could run a huge race. I looked at a Henry de Bromhead stable tour the other day, and this is the plan, which is great. You've got that in your favour. He's off 131.
Does that get him in?
Well, I've looked at the last 10 renewals, and it would have got him in 5 of the last 10, but it would have gotten him in the last 2 years, which I'm taking as a good thing. As I say, he's off 131. He won at the October meeting.
And they could reassess that, couldn't they?
They Possibly. Could, and to be honest, I wouldn't mind if they shoved. Like, if you got raised another.
You're going to be sending the BHA an email being like, "Please, can you raise the WAC?"
This is a very well handicapped horse. You need to reassess.
Please make it 134 so he gets in the Kinmure.
Well, if he was 133, 134,
with a flower in the post,
yeah, he'd get in every year. And P.S. What is Langardin? Take off those goggles. Anyway, sorry, he won in the October meeting.
He's good as well.
He was pretty good from the front. Only caveat with the horse is, does he have to lead? Which a lot of his wins would suggest he probably does need. It's not that bad a case that you need to Sorry. This is my best case of the day.
Does he have to have quick ground?
I think he prefers nicer ground, but I don't think...
Thursday isn't traditionally very quick ground.
No, potentially not, but you've moved on to the new course. It won't have been that chewed up. There'll only be a couple of races on that chase course at that stage. I'd like to hope he'll get away with it. Interesting to know, like, obviously you look at Henry in years gone by, amateurs that ride from, Davy Roach could take the ride, Maybe a Deck Lavery could take the ride, because obviously that's something you have to bear in mind in these races. You don't want any old punter turning up. I don't think that would be the case, especially if the horse is well fancied. I think he's 16 to 1. Of all the ones I've mused over, he's the one I'd be most intrigued by.
Very interesting.
Of all the ones that you've mused, who would be the one? If you were to pin to one. No, you can't. You'd be laughing from the cheap seats and yawning away.
Cade of Bulan and King of Kingsfield.
Well done, mate. You've gone for the horse that's going to end up being 7-2 for the Martin Pipe.
I quite like them all. Yeah, it'd be interesting. If you did enjoy this video, please hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And we do have a preview night. Please come along if you can. It'll be a fantastic night. It is going to be in Birmingham. All details are in the description. If you just click below, first line, you'll see all the details for the preview night. It is on March the 7th, the Thursday.
Yep, looking forward to it.
Yeah, very much looking forward to it. And yeah, will be lots of fun. Hope you enjoyed that. Little bit of handicap chat. I always like it. And looking forward to seeing what you've got to say in the comments below. Get them down. See you soon.